Council Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. The purpose of this public hearing is to hear testimony on Bill 170514. I am Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, and I am the Chair of Council's Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. I would like to recognize the presence of a quorum with the attendance of Councilman Mark Squilla, Councilman Mark Jones, Councilman Al Toppenberger, Councilman Mark Squilla, and Councilman Curtis Jones.
We combined you. It's easier. It's okay.
And Councilman Derek Green. And with that, will the clerk please read the title of the bill?
Bill number 170514, an ordinance authorizing the Procurement Department and the Department of Commerce on behalf of the city to enter into a contract for the provision of shuttle bus services at the Philadelphia International Airport under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. I want to also acknowledge Councilman Alan Dom, who's here, and will the clerk please call up the witness for the bill?
Tracy Borda.
Good afternoon, Chairman Johnson and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. I am Tracy Borda, Chief Financial Officer for Philadelphia International Airport, and sitting here at the table with me is Keith Bruni, Deputy Director of Aviation, Operations and Security. We are pleased to appear before you to testify in support of Bill number 170514. As you know, Philadelphia International Airport is owned and operated by the City of Philadelphia. The airport is totally self-supporting and uses no local tax dollars. The airport generates more than $15.4 billion in regional economic activity and accounts for more than 96,000 jobs within the region. Bill number 170514 will authorize the City of Philadelphia to enter into a 4-year initial agreement for the operation of shuttle bus services at the airport, with 3 one-year optional renewal terms for a total contract term of 7 years. In accordance with the provisions of 8-200 of the Home Rule Charter and 17-1402 of the Philadelphia Code, the city engaged in a competitive process and issued a request for proposals on May 18, 2017 for the operation of shuttle bus services at the airport. Proposals are due June 28, 2017. If approved by Council, the contract term will align with the life cycle of the required buses. A mixed fleet of vehicles will be required under the contract. Medium-duty buses have a 7-year life cycle and cost approximately $125,000 per vehicle. Heavy-duty buses have a 12-year life cycle and range in value from $450,000 to $650,000 and up. The airport will not purchase nor own the vehicles. The contracted vendor will be required to make the capital investment. 21 new medium-duty buses will be required, which represents an approximate investment of $2.6 million. 11 heavy-duty buses shall also be required, an approximate investment of $5 to $7 million. As a cost savings measure, less than new heavy-duty buses may be utilized so long as they are no more than 4 years old at the start of the contract. By the time the contract expires, all of the buses will be at the end of their life cycle. Further, we expect to receive competitive pricing with a longer-term contract. Vendors will be able to amortize the cost of the vehicles over the life of the contract more appropriately than the city's standard contract of 1 year with 3 one-year renewals. The Division of Aviation shall manage the shuttle bus operation for the city, and there will be no general fund impact. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today in support of Bill number 170514, and respectfully request that the rules be suspended to allow first reading at the next council session. We are happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Curtis Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of quick questions. First of all, thank you for sending Mary Ann down to my office to drag me down here to make sure we had a quorum. We appreciate that added service. But a couple of questions. Shuttle buses, it's my understanding that these buses and buses that are newly constructed aren't made in the USA. Do you have any knowledge about that?
Do we have a Made in USA component?
It's my understanding that we don't make buses anymore.
I don't have I don't know,
All right,
Councilman,
so
but
can you research that?
sure.
Provide that to the chair?
Yes, we can research
And
it.
the reason I ask that is, it's, and this comes from SEPTA, they told us that the main manufacturers of buses now is in Canada. But the question becomes minority and female participation. How do we, and Wilson Good was essential in passing on those responsibilities to subcontractors and concessionaires that do business with the city of Philadelphia. So my question would be, how do we plan to achieve those goals? You made mention that we were talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of a dozen vehicles.
Oh, it's,
How many?
in total, we have, what is it, 21 medium-duty buses and 11? 11 heavy-duty
And
buses.
so, what is that total? So that's 33 buses at,
32 buses.
and the average price is what?
Well, it ranges, there's a difference in price between the medium-duty and the heavy-duty
give me-
buses.
give me the medium.
So, hold on one second, I'll do the math here. What's that? Yeah, it was 125,000 per vehicle for the medium-duty, and the heavy-duty vehicles can be, around $500,000 or more.
So,
So the investment right now for the vehicles, we're seeing the medium-duty vehicles, the investment that the vendor needs to make is about $2.6 million. And then for the heavy-duty buses, the 11 heavy-duty buses, it's probably going to be an investment of $5 to $7 million that they would be financing.
got it, but as that works with our local economy, who provides the tires, who provides those other things we want to take a look at? Because we're talking about a longer term. We're talking about a 7-year contract, if I heard that correct?
A 4-year base plus 3 one-year optional renewals.
So that's a lot of participation potentially for a local vendor who does the repair of those tires. So in the contract, there are subcontracting and even second-tier subcontracting opportunities. And we want to include, A, local merchants, and B, minorities and females where we can. That's, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Well, let's go back first. Are you going to provide this information to,
We can find out where
Chair.
buses are made. That was the one question that you had, so let me make sure I'm clear. And then in terms of the minority contracting opportunities,
So if you're spending $5 million over a 4-year period, that's a lot of oil changes. Who provides that service? There's a lot of tires that are going to need to be rotated. Who does that? Who's providing? So when you subcontract this shuttle service out, you need to ask those questions of them. Where are the minorities? Where are the females that might take advantage of this local business opportunities here? So if they're making the buses in Canada, that's fine, I get it. You can't make manufacturers pop up out of the soil like trees, but there are local tire distributors, there are local oil and mechanics that can be employed in this process so that, that the public gets quality bus service. But there's a kid in a barbershop that's changing tires that can afford to take care of his family. Is a second-tier priority of this council.
okay, well, my understanding is that the contracting opportunities, the DBE contracting opportunities on this contract were in the forms of fluids and fuels.
Okay.
Because the current vendor that it's been there and had the contract previously, I believe it's all done in-house.
All right,
So that's part of, depending
So
on the size of the firm, that could be part of the issue.
So as you look at these potential suitors that want to provide this service, we will be looking at this long extended contract for those also worthwhile social economic benefits from that contract opportunity. So as you look at it, understand how we're going to look at it.
Okay.
All right? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Councilman Jones. Councilman Allen Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. I just had a few questions on the math. I want to make sure I understand your contract. Is the current contract $11 million a year?
Approximately, yes.
And is the new contract going to be $16 million a year?
We're unsure, but because there's new buses being purchased, we're thinking that it will go potentially up. And in addition, we've also, we've separated into two different routes that vendors could propose on, and just the sheer separating of the economy route from, which is where passengers park, from the employee parking lot, that could add additional costs our way as well. But it also would allow for maybe greater competition.
All right, but I'm trying to just do the quick math for a minute. If the contract's going up $5 million a year over 4 years, that's $20 million more than the existing contract, just taking the 4 years, forget the options for a minute. And the cost of the two different types of buses, or whatever, the transportation vehicles, the first one is $2,250,000, and the alternatives are either $4,950,000 or $7,150,000, plus another maybe $375,000. So I mean, you're talking somewhere between $7 and $9.5 million for equipment. If that's the case, why is the contract going up $20 million?
Well, we're not sure. We just budgeted that amount. We're not sure of the exact. We haven't said that that's going to be the cost
I
of
know,
the
but that's
contract.
what-
In addition, there will be labor incurred, so it doesn't include labor.
Yeah, but labor hasn't gone up that much. This is a huge increase. You're talking $5 million over the existing year. That's what, a 40%, 50% increase? That's a lot.
It was just an estimate. I would love it if it comes in actually at the same price or lower.
But why wouldn't we have a written estimate of what the cost is going to be before you ask us to approve it?
Well, because we were concerned with, we're going with two different types of buses, and I think maybe Keith can step
But
in
the
here.
delta of the two
more
different types
buses?
of buses is $2.2 million, so we know what that is. But in this contract, you're asking for $20 million more over 4 years, above what we're currently paying, and the bus cost is between $7 and $9.5 million. Where's the extra $10.5 million to $12.5 million going?
Per year, there would be, you're talking about a $5 million, a $4 million differential.
Here's the math. It's $5 million times 4 years is $20 million. The two different types of bus costs are between 7.2 and 9.6, depending which ones you select. My question is that once you subtract off the bus cost from the extra $20 million, why is the contract $10 to $12 million more over 4 years?
I would just add in labors and fuel. That's the primary, that's the major costs that are in there. There's other ancillary smaller costs, but there's just fuel. So it's the cost of fuel and fluids and labor.
It just seems like a very, very high increase for those categories that seem above the rate of inflation. I'd rather see a written estimate as to what it's really going to cost us before we have approvals of these kind of monies, so we know what we're dealing with. Otherwise, we're making decisions without having all the facts. If this was your money, you would never do it this way.
It is our money, and I don't like doing it that way, but we will have a sense of proposals when they come in later this month, and so we have not promised any vendors any specific amounts.
I know, but I don't understand why we're increasing $5 million a year. It's almost 50% increase in this. I understand the vehicles, but I just still don't understand that level of increase. Anyway, thank you for your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Dow. Any other questions for the panel? I do want to ask one question of you before we bring up our next individual who wants to testify. As we go through this process, we still would like for you at least to give Councilman Dow just additional clarity as we move forward.
Okay.
Before we get the final passage of the vote. Okay, Councilman Dow?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
Councilman Alan Toppenberger?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just so I have it correct and reiterate it again, maybe memorialize it, the $11 million that is here listed is really an approximation.
The $11 million is what we pay today for the contract for this
Current.
past year.
Oh, but
Yes,
that says
for this
it's a-
past year.
But according to my paper here, it says approximate.
Just because it's probably slightly more, that's all.
Okay. So the possibility is, though, when you open the bids, and everybody has to have their bid in, June 20,
Yes,
whatever it says here, 29th?
June 28th.
28th, I'm sorry, the
That's
awful
okay.
day. It's possible that it could come in lower.
Yes, could come in lower. And it's negotiable. We've allowed for greener options. There's some optionalities there that we're going to take a look at based on, technology that they may want to implement. We're going to take a look at different factors.
Okay, all right. And what would your estimate be? And I'm asking for an estimate of the number of people that will be bidding on this contract.
We're hoping that it's anywhere from 3 to 5 vendors
Okay.
would be wonderful.
And for this bid process to go through, correct me if I'm wrong, this legislation must move forward. Is that correct?
So what we can do is, my understanding in dealing with the legal department is we can go through the proposal process, but we can't award a contract without your approval.
Until this legislation is passed?
Yes.
Okay. And you're hoping to have these buses up and running, well, I
So-
see, start date of June 1st?
No, next year.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't hear the
I keep
date.
track of the years. I mean, I'm new around here, but
My
I do keep
apologies.
track of the years. So 2018, okay, so,
Yes.
okay, that makes sense. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Allen Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple other questions I just wanted to ask. First, Transit, I just looked them up. They're based in Cincinnati?
I believe so.
The U.S. division is, yes, sir.
So to piggyback on Councilman Jones's comments, are there any of these types of companies that are based in Philadelphia?
Is there any Philadelphia-based companies? We did the research when we tried to reach out to vendors to get proposals. My team is telling me that they didn't see any based in Philadelphia.
I mean, given, I think all of us would be in a more favorable if the money was going to a Philadelphia company than a company in Ohio.
I agree.
The other question I have is there an optionality here for electric vehicles, electric buses, so that we can cut out the costs you're referring to on diesel and so forth, and down the road, save money and environmentally much better?
Councilman, my name is Keith Bruni. I'm the Deputy Director of Aviation for Operations and Security. The shuttle bus contract would fall under our domain. We do have the option in there. We've requested for green options, be it CNG, diesel electric hybrid, or electric buses also. So we've asked them to offer that within their proposal.
Okay. And will you be looking at an analysis over the next at least 4 years or maybe 7 years as to the cost analysis of the diesel versus electric, so you'll be able to make a smart buying decision?
Yes,
You know, the operational costs. Okay.
yes, sir.
Thank you. Will you be able to share that information with the chairman?
I think we wouldn't share our evaluation of them, but we'll give you a sense of this vendor that we selected and what that's going to
So we
cost
can,
us.
I just want to be able to see what the return is different between the two options.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Dow. Councilman Allen Toppenberger.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. One quick question with the buses. I mean, as I get this, these are shuttle buses, and they're essentially going to be on the grounds of the airport
Yes,
for their entire time that they're in service.
that's correct.
So the opportunity for electric or something that's not run by diesel is very strong, because they're not going on the highway, they're not coming up to...
No, I think we would just be a matter of, and Keith can correct me because he knows more than me about this, but it would be a matter of the installation of all of the other infrastructure that's needed to charge the vehicles. That would
Yeah,
be
there is
another
some with that, of
yeah.
course.
There's a
And how
capital.
many buses are we asking here? So
21 in total.
21 in total, and okay. So,
Sir, it's 21 medium-duty buses and 11 heavy-duty
duty.
buses for the different opportunities.
so I would think, and I'm not an expert, nor am I saying, but you would need maybe at most a half a dozen stations to charge, if no, just one? Really? Okay, well, we have some expertise here on the
We would certainly like redundancy, so probably more than one, but one should probably be able to handle it. We would
One
have
should
to do an
probably-
analysis.
Redundancy's not a bad thing. It's done in military and other places all the time.
If we choose to go the electric route, we would do the analysis on that.
Okay. I mean, it would seem to me that if there's an opportunity to do electric vehicles, this might be that opportunity if the costs were in line.
Green technology is a focus of ours.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Allen Toppenberger. You did touch on an issue that we're looking at right now in City Council, and that's regarding electric vehicles, but also it's the infrastructure that comes along with that process that will allow for you to move forward and make that type of transition and kind of have the charging stations set in place that will allow us to purchase those electrical vehicles. And so hopefully in the future we'll end up at that point, but I do understand the complexities of going in that direction from the infrastructure standpoint. I would like to ask, are there any other questions of the panel? Okay, thank you very much. I want you to stick around for a moment because we also have testimony from another gentleman. Can the clerk please call the next witness, please?
Hanford Jones.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, honorable council members of the Transportation and Public Utilities Committee. I will be brief because my issue is always the same, black and minority business participation. In this situation, however, I would need a point of clarification because I am working with a disadvantaged team of vendors who want to bid on this as a prime. And I don't want a Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton talk on the plane for a second like the Justice Department lady did to mess up Ms. Clinton's campaign because they said it was a conflict. So please let me know if I'm not in no conflicting situation, voluntarily working for a group of small disadvantaged businesses who are going to compete on this contract and who attended a mandatory pre-proposal meeting that's required to compete. The answer to the earlier question, are there local people? There will be, yes. Folks who are Wall Street financiers who are going to help back this project for the team I'm working with, as well as a current bus vendor who has over 90 buses. Unfortunately, they're in North Jersey, but that's close in Ohio and California. By the way, we're competing against two of the largest firms in America who provide shuttle bus service, who provide paratransit service. They're the largest in this country. Now, how are we going to compete and win and get our points prorated, if you will, because the experience and volume will never meet. So therefore, we're already 2 points down. And I'm going to be brief, like I said. If you go to my exhibits, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, who operates buses and airports and transit systems like our airport and our city does, have set-aside programs. So little firms like I'm working for, who compete against MV Transportation and First Transit, have a chance to win. Because the rules and the level playing field are in black and white language in the bid specs. If you turn to the third page where it talks about price preferences. Right now, if we compete, we might be $5 million higher because we little guys competing against giants. Well, heck, their numbers too high. Oh, we don't have all the technology. We're little guys competing against giants. So another thing that they have with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey are complete set-asides where only small businesses and minority female businesses can compete, period. That also is a way to win and have a winning team and how to level the playing field. MV Transportation, First Transit, and a couple other vendors who were there, if they miss Philly, do you think they're going to miss a steak dinner? No. And I'm not besieging these firms for their accent into the profit levels of American business. I'm not trying to do that. Walking around the airport doing a site visit, I saw a lot of blacks and minority people working for the company, and it was good to see. However, we're talking about business owners now, also employing people that look like them. So that's all I want to say. And the last thing, before the last thing, the U.S. Department of Transportation, under the rules that allow disadvantaged business enterprise participation in America, have since 1980 a caveat under section 26.43, letter B, you may not set aside contracts for DBEs on DOT-assisted contracts, albeit this is not a DOT-assisted contract. My point will still be the same. You may not set aside contracts for DBEs on DOT-assisted contracts subject to this part, except that in limited and extreme circumstances, you may use set-asides. You may use set-asides when no other method could be reasonably expected to redress egregious instances of discrimination. I don't like the word discrimination. I'd rather use exclusion. It's easier to see. And if you've got a vendor who's been running buses for 8-10 years and their minority participation is not as good as it can be, that's not just on that vendor. This very honorable city council let an airport concessionaire on the food courts get away with an equity owner deficiency, which he had to win the contract. You had to have a minority business equity owner, which the firm on your concessions at the airport did. When that majority and minority firm fell out, this council and mayor signed off and let the minority business go away and took those employees from the minority business on the majority firm's payroll, and everything was okay. Well, it wasn't. Long story short, let's use this contract, hopefully, as a guide to get a very large prime vendor performing services that are approved by the owner and meets the definitions of what you all are looking for, a local firm who's providing business opportunities to black and minority business people. Finally, in this last section, we gotta stop the and or language, OEO. Has to stop using and or. Minority business 10% and or female businesses 5%. Why the or? Don't you, the council, want both minority and women to participate? So what's the or for? Fortunately, we haven't had a big contract where some smart person uses no minority people, just women. You know, the folks who rode on the back of the bus once again are being left out. Please have OEO or the law department stop with the and or option, because I don't want it to be the biggest contract when blacks get left out, like on the water department contract, Clearwell Basin, that I wrote to each of you and no one responded, where Keating won a $40 million job and had no blacks on it. Nobody responded to that. So, bottom line, back to happiness. We have a firm that's going to compete, and we'll put together the best proposal we can. And please, remember when you review the award of this contract to ask what happened at the prime level and at the subcontract level. And hopefully we'll be sitting up here to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm having fun now because the hard part's over.
Thank you, Hanford Jones. Are any questions or comments from members of the committee to the witness? None?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Is there anyone else here to testify on this bill? This concludes the public hearing on bill number 170514. We will now go into a public meeting to consider the action to be taken on this bill. The chair recognizes Vice Chair Councilman Mark Squilla to make a motion on bill number 170514.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 170514 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
It has been moved.
It has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 170514 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further be moved that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Bill number 170514 will be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation with a request that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading at the next session of council. This concludes our public meeting, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much. Yes. Councilwoman Madam Sherelle Parker is in attendance. I'm sorry. Thank you. I agree.